Seems my last video may have stopped recording. So what I was working on was now. I'll be there in a sec. So once Flash launches, you'd see that I started on an now, and then I'm working on that. Now, but not yet. I may mess this up, you know. So I'm going to do the nose now. So we have kind of an owl. So I'm going to do a nose. And what you can do is you can select under rectangle tools, you can go to polystars. Now when you go to polystars, you go to options. I can select the number of sides. So how do you draw a triangle? The triangle would be my nose, so I'm going to say three number of sides. So once again, I selected the polystar. Then I went to options under tool settings in the properties panel, and I selected the number of sides to be 3. So my polystar is going to be a triangle. Let me change the color to kind of a brown. Okay, there's my polystar. Obviously, I have the stroke. I'm just going to remove the stroke. So that's going to be my nose. So I'm going to free transform this, kind of rotate it. And you could see, you know, sometimes it just doesn't snap exactly where you want it. That's because, oh no, it's crashed again. Okay, let me open this again. Let's open this again. Okay, so once again, I'm going to redo that. Flash just crashed on me. So I'm going to select the polystar. Then go to options, select 3. Now I'm going to draw my, actually undo this, I don't want a stroke. To draw my nose, I'm going to rotate this around. And I was mentioning, it doesn't seem to snap pixel by pixel, because when you go to, now where is it? Insert, edit. Try to find where these settings are snapping there under view. Say snapping, currently it snaps to a line. I want it to snap to pixels only, so I need to go back into view, deselect all the snapping to objects and just select snap to pixels. So now I can be precise. So once again, go to view snapping and select snap to pixels only. What this allows me to do now is to rotate. You can see it's exact. So I can do pixel by pixel rotation. So now my nose is going to be somewhere there, but I want it to be under my eyes. So I'm just going to remove that, and I'll bring it back again, and I'm going to paste it and just put it outside the stage. Now I'm going to move my nose there, and now I can just drag these and just move them back on top of my nose. I think that's kind of a line. That's perfect. So there's my my nose. It looks more like an owl now, but still some areas are missing. You know, maybe something at the top. You know, I could have I don't know, some like eyebrows or something in the middle, and of course feet. So now I am going to try to create something that I could put at the top of the eyes that give it more definition, I guess. So I'm going to create two of these, Control C, Control V to paste another one, and now I'm going to rotate this. You can actually rotate it through. This is why I tend to just do free transform, and usually it's about the same. So I'm going to move it there and kind of rotate it down, and I'll do the same thing here. So it looks a bit better. Just that alone makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Now I could put something here at the bottom, so while we're creating this owl. Of course, we're not going to be able to have its wings flap because it's all on the same layer. I'm throwing everything on the same layer, so there's not much we can do with the animation, but it's giving you a good idea how you can draw objects, how you can manipulate them. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create some kind of fur down here, so let me see what I can do. So I'll just take an object just off here. I'm just going to take some chunks off. Something bigger. I'm only going to do half of it. Then I'll just copy the other part to this side. So you may see what I'm trying to do.
You just changed it to like a ragged line, but then make it look like a feather.
Sorry?
I said if you had changed like that shape on the right wing or left wing.
I could do, yeah. I could do that, obviously. They're kind of symmetrical right now, but I could do that, yes, by all means, yes. And that could work. So I'm just going to kind of move that down here somewhere. But, I'm going to make it a bit more wider. So free transform. It may not look great. We'll just have to see. So I'm going to copy, Control C, Control V. Then I want to flip it and kind of merge it there. Well, didn't do a good job there. Move it up a pixel, even then. But let's change this to kind of a gray. So we can move it here, make it a bit more wider. Really messed it up there. Okay, see, so I need that nose to be there, so I'm going to just move it outside, then move this somewhere down here, then move the nose back up here. So I can actually give it not the same color, I can give the same color, kind of a different shade. Doesn't look great, maybe a kind of a green. Looks like a beard now, doesn't it? Just stick with that.
A wizard owl.
Sorry?
You can make it a wizard.
Yeah, guess so, yeah. Guess so. But we can move other things around. So obviously the feet would be the next stage. You can see it can be time consuming. Without a sketch or anything in mind, I'm just kind of winging it. But it's always good to kind of sketch it or have a look at other graphics. They tend to give you an idea. Any questions on that so far? So the stuff we've covered so far, we've covered the toolbar, we've covered objects, how we can merge them. We've covered the registration point. No. Okay, let's try once again. So remember, we've covered selecting an object. We've covered how to deselect a stroke. So whenever you're creating an object, so I'm going to create another circle. I've deselected the stroke. I could have a stroke color. So if I wanted blue, that's going to come up with a stroke. So now if I was to draw a circle here, so we've got the gray with the blue stroke around it. So these are separate objects. So if I was to move the circle, it would leave the stroke where I initially drew that. So you need to remember, if you want to drag and move the stroke and the object, it's best to select the whole layer. The whole layer selects all the objects that you've placed on that layer. So I tend to, if I don't want a stroke, I make sure, there's going to be no stroke. So I go to stroke and I will select it as being no stroke. And you could do it the other way around. So if you just want maybe a circle and you don't want to fill, you can select just the stroke. So I want the stroke but no fill. So there's my circle. Now I can play around with that. So you can create an outline if you're tracing a graphic by just using the strokes and no fill color. So the lasso tool is something where you can use with the free hand. It's very difficult to use if you're using the mouse. So the stroke, fill color, you can also switch. Black and white tool changes stroke to black and fill to white. You can do that. These colors, whenever we do select these colors, they are hexadecimal colors. So when we select them, these are hex colors. So you can search, you go to Google, and you do hex colors, and it comes up with a string of different hex color codes. There's lots of different variations. So just if you're trying to port a graphic across to maybe a different tool or a website, we can also change this color. So if I wanted this particular stroke to be the same color as the wings, I can go to the stroke, then select the color from the stage. So this isn't the only color. I can just click on the wings. So now these two colors are the same. So you're not just limited to what's on the palette there. You can also select any color that's on the stage. So a gradient is a fill color that makes a gradual transition from one color to another. You can actually do that. We did part of that with the circle. But you can also apply them by the paint bucket. So let's see what we can do. So if we have a wing and we go to the color on the top right hand side, you will see currently we have a solid color. We have a solid color set for that particular wing. I want to change that to be a gradient. I could say radial, I could say linear. So linear gradient would be, from one color to another. So I want the first color to be like the wing, and then maybe the last color to be a bit like, I don't know if that's great. Let's say a darker color. So that's given me a bit more definition there. I could do the same thing on the other side. I can say, I want let's do a radial here for the sake of it. So you could see the difference between a radial and a linear. So it's given more depth to our image. I could do the same thing with the background, the body of the owl. I could say, let's have a radial. It looks much better now. May not be the best color. We could always change that. Let's go to change it from black to maybe kind of a green. We can slide this across too if we want to. Not so great. I prefer the other one. So just undo. We could also change this. So let's actually have a linear there. And let's say have a gray. So gradients do play a great part in terms of really making your picture stand out. So it's very easy to do this, and these are just vector images. So when we zoom in, you can see, we're not losing the clarity of our image. It's crisp. So basically, we could have it sort of zoom in, zoom out. We could have an object zoom in, zoom out, and it would still look crisp. So to copy an object, select it and then click Copy Command, or copy, Control-C and Control-V to paste it. I tend to use that a lot. So Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste it. You can also copy it and move it to a different layer. So for example, say if I've drawn my owl, now I want to copy this wing to a separate layer. I'm just going to remove this layer, the ring layer. So I'm going to have this as owl. I want to create L-wing. Give it a name, L-wing. For left wing, I'm going to Control X. Then I'm going to paste it on a different layer. Then move it. Let me move it. My Flash, I just have to close it. Let me save it and reopen this. Hopefully it should work now. No, it's not working. Let me close all of Flash. Yeah, it sometimes misbehaves on here. So I'm just showing you, how you can copy and paste it onto separate layers. The purpose of that is so you can have animation. Try to create objects on separate layers. So I'll come back to that. So you can move them by dragging, dropping. You could change the XY position. Some of you may have noticed this. Others may not have. Let's see. Okay, now. Yeah, I can move it now. So I'm going to do the same thing with the right wing. I'm going to put it onto a separate layer. Call it R wing for right wing. Paste it. I'm going to move it there. Now, when you're moving an object, have a look on the properties section here. The X, Y are changing. No. Let's try once again.
Is that probably because you're both running PowerPoint and the stream?
And the streaming, yeah. Integrity, yeah, it tends to have issues with that. Because I'm streaming, it tends to crash.
Yeah, just
So I'm just going to leave the left wing there. So when we move this, have a look over here under the properties section, the XY change. So when you're doing animation, you want to be specific of what the XY is. We can actually physically type it in here too. We could say, I don't know, I want that to be a 40, say, I don't know, 500. It suddenly goes off the stage. Or let's say back to 50. It's back to 50. So we can actually put the XY coordinates, or we can actually just use the mouse and drag and drop. So that's it's a choice you can actually make. So you can also rotate and skew objects. Rotating and skewing objects. So what is skew? So when we go to free transform, we can rotate by going to a corner, and we can rotate this object. It's probably not the best choice I made. Let's do this one. So I can rotate it. Remember, we can change our registration point. See that circle? I could move it. So my registration point is always going to be there. So if I was to rotate it, always rotate. Let's move back. Let me move it again. Okay, let's try now. So it'll always rotate at that particular pivot point. So now I could have my owl, trying to flap its wings, and when it starts flapping, we could have it go up, and it's flying up. So we could do that. So remember the registration point. If you don't change it at the time you create the symbol or the object, you can always go to free transform and you can move it to wherever you want that registration point to be. Now skew is you can actually go to the edge and you can skew the object. Sometimes this can be beneficial depending on what you're trying to do. I can skew it. I could bring it down a bit if you want to. Okay, so that's how you would skew it. Now you can rotate it. You can flip it. So some cool things that you can do fairly quickly from the stage. You can use envelope options, reshape. You can use distort. So the particular chapter does cover, how to skew, how to rotate, even how to flip an object. You can sub-select. You can reshape an object, which we've generally been doing. So then Flash also allows a great deal of flexibility when using text. So I'm going to continue on this. I'm just going to create the right wing, R wing. So we may want to use this down the road. So I'm just going to paste it in a separate layer. Zoom out of this. I'll just leave it there. So the next part is, let me save this. The next part is text. I'm going to select everything. I've got some. Okay, there you go. I'm going to select everything, kind of scale it down a bit. And we'll just leave it there. Okay, I'm going to type in text. So you can actually create different typefaces, different fonts, sizes, colors. You can also throw in gradients if you like. So there's a wealth of things you can actually create in Flash. So working with the drawn objects. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue with this. I'm going to create a separate layer for text. I'm just going to type text. So we've been playing around with layers. Now we are going to move on to text. So I'm going to type in Mr. Owl. I'm going to select the text tool and then go to the stage. Hang on. Okay, go to the stage. And when you go to the stage, you can see the properties panel changes based on this particular tool we've selected. So by default, mine is set to Times New Roman. I want to change that to a different font. Let's see what would look good. I'm going to go with, let's see what's out there. Going to go up with Swiss 721. So now I'm going to type in Mr. Owl. And it seems it's white text, so I'm going to select a text color. I'm going to change the font. Let's see. Let's try again. Mr. See, why isn't it choosing the color? Flash is not. Are you guys having the same issue? Let's choose a different font for the sake of it. Yeah, let me close Flash. Yeah. Save it. Let's close it. Come with that. I think I have PowerPoint open at the same time too, so that may be an issue. So if we open Flash again, type some text in. You could change the font. So if you're going through the text book, we're actually on lesson 4, which is page 2-36. 2-36. I'm going to close the PowerPoint slide. That seems to be interfering with Flash. So I've got my text. I'm going to type in Mr. Owl. And we're still having similar issues. Okay, let's try TLF. Okay, there. So TLF text, Mr. Owl. So make sure you select TLF text. It's supposed to classic. So we're going to place it here in the middle. Let's choose a different font. And you can change the font at any time if you like, by just selecting the whole text. Let's choose something. Okay, I've got this. There you go. It's more like it's a better fit there. Mr. Owl. Obviously, we can't actually move individual characters. We can't resize individual characters. But we can actually break this apart. What you can do is you can select the text and press Control B. Control B for break. Press Control B. And when you do that, it will break the individual characters. So now we can move them individually. Control B. Look, we could do more. We could also break these apart again. Control B. Again. And this time, these are vector images. You can select them. And we can actually change the style of it. We could pull it and do anything we like. You know, we want the M to be a bit high. You can do all kinds of things here. And now I want to kind of move it down here. You know, Mr. Owl, maybe move the R up a bit. I want the O to be a bit bigger. Maybe have it a separate color. And so on. So you could do all kinds of things here. Move that away there, that sort of circle I had below that. Maybe, you know, flip this the other way, rotate it. So there we go, Mr. Owl there. So Control B actually allows you to break text apart, and it's actually a vector image. Now each time you zoom in, it's not being distorted. So things we could do is we could have these individual characters fly in if we want to. You know, for example, just for demonstration purposes, and we'll do this in the next chapter. So for example, in terms of O, you know, here, I'm going to select O. Select O. I'm going to Control X. To place it on a separate layer, just call it O. Control V. And I can create a tween. So remember we did a bit of this last week. Create motion tween. Okay. So right at the beginning, I want this to be, huge. I want the owl to be there, stuck in the middle somewhere of this O. So now if we were to play this, actually it should change in size. So let me go back into this. Let's come down. Control plus. Okay, let's try now. So obviously I could sort of tweak it up right at the end. I could put a stop. I could have like a bit of a thump when it lands with a bit of a bounce. So small things like this you can actually do. So I could say insert frame, or insert keyframe here, sorry. Insert keyframe. The scale. And then it kind of comes up. So if you play this now, and it happens so suddenly. Something which I will actually cover. Actually, I'll show you now. I'm creating another layer, calling it AS, which is action script. So currently my movie just keeps playing over and over again. I want this to stop right at the end. So I've created another layer, and right at the end I'm going to insert a keyframe. Then I'm going to press F9, function key F9, and it should pop up with another panel. And I'm just going to type in stop, semicolon. And what this will allow me to do would allow me, allow the movie to stop at the end. Okay, it just stops at the end, as opposed to it just keeps cycling in. So all I've done is I've just created another layer, then right at the end inserted a keyframe, then I've pressed F9. What you can also do is you can also go to Windows, let's see, Actions, and that will also take you to the Action Script panel. We're not going to be doing too much of this, as this is an animation class, but you could see what we can do with text. We could have everything fly from one side to the other. We'll cover more of that when we do the tweening and the animation part. Any comments on that? Any comments? So we can actually manipulate the text in lots of ways. So we're going to take a break. Let's take a break.